Hey, what's up, guys? Thought I'd go over some very relevant film movies that you watch them now, and you sort of. Some people I say you get a chill up your spine. Okay, increasingly I get more of a kind of like an evil smile and a nod, kind of I guess reaction to this. And they age very well. Most of these are what you would consider, I guess, apocalyptic horror. Okay, on a global scale, let's say. And there's also conspiracies throughout, right? Although one of them is really, I guess, not in that vein, but it sort of encapsulates probably the fallout of that in a more realistic manner. But anyway, let me get into that. Okay, The Happening. Right? A lot of people made fun of this. A lot of people don't like M. Night Shyamalan. I think he's, mostly brilliant filmmaker. The Happening. I remember the whole thing with this is people are making fun of like people are running away from nothing. I think South Park made fun of it. Could you imagine like millions and millions of people being terrified of something they couldn't see? I could never imagine that happening. Okay. Of course, the situation is a little more direct. Apparently, everyone's just killing themselves. Okay, and Wahlberg actually does a good job. He actually is a good actor, man. Marky Mark. Uh, he actually plays like a kind of a wussy, normal guy in this. Okay, his wife is the that hipster chick with the big eyes, and it shows how people panic, and they're watching the TV, and of course now even more you have other methods of getting your information. Okay, you don't want to get the wrong information, right? Or those evil people that try to give you disinformation. um, but I like that it gets it gets a very subtle, understated sense of dread, where everyone is they when they figured out people are trying to hide inside. Okay, there's actually a cool scene in this that was probably meant to be an indictment of the indigenous culture of America, but I actually like the scene a lot. There's a scene where uh, these two teenage punk overfed jerks who kind of go with him as they're trying to find some safe haven. They start messing with some dude's house, trying to break it. When they realize that there's someone inside, and the guy tells them to get the hell out of there. And they decide they're gonna be all gangster, American tough guy, teenager bullshit. And then they get what they get literally a second later. I like that scene. So, um, yeah, this was pretty good. So, and like Leguizamo's in this. He's not playing some tough guy, from the Bronx. So it's kind of refreshing seeing him be like a nerdy dude. Shot in the Phoenixville area. There's actually a cool scene where you actually see the twin nuclear reactors at Limerick. If you're familiar with the area, so go to the next one. All right, Halloween 3, man. This is becoming one of my top 10 films of all time. Okay, I remember when I saw this on television, severely edited. I didn't like it. Yeah, it wasn't Michael. That's the old trope, but it was just too nasty. It was too grim. Okay, which is to say, it's right up my alley. Now, in particular, I mean, years ago, I had started to really like this film. The sense of a global apocalypse being put on upon you by some kind of corporate entity or entities. More conspiracies, more changing. Things are gonna change. Right? Like the guy, like I'm paraphrasing what the guy says, and you have uh, enforcers coming to get you if you don't comply. Okay. Um, the idea of people being test subjects without their knowledge. And you have a hero that is literally I would say not up to the task. So, but he actually does better in it than you think, right? And of course, the great Carpenter ending of, it never ends. You never know, right? Hell of the Living Dead. I've gone over this. My famous video that I got a copyright. I don't know what it was. A strike. It was some copyright on there, but they didn't take it down. Hell of the Living Dead. Right? Like I said, this is literally Resident Evil, done by Italians back in the early '80s. The ending of this, the way it was done, you know, and you could make fun of Claudio Fragasso, and Bruno Mattei being super uber hacks, but the original script that Fragasso had was very epic, okay? Slightly Marxist, but whatever, right? You know, there's a new left wing Marxism. It's not really. It's like there's it's Amy Therese and some other people. I keep name dropping, but in the end, the concept that happens where the population needs to be controlled, and so and they decide that there's a way to do that, and it backfires. You could say it backfires, but does it? Does it really backfire? You'll never know. But this is a fun, grim movie, but there's like I keep saying, man, Toro in this, the guy, the crazy dude, like he actually saves the movie. If he wasn't in this, it may not have been as cool. But nah, the gore and the nastiness were pretty good. So you know, the final revelation is done really well. Okay, Last Man on Earth. I've gone over this. Right? House on Haunted Hill is cool too, but Last Man on Earth is an Italian film with Vincent Price. Not campy in the slightest, very grim. Influenced Romero in his films, and everybody. I mean, the story, I Am Legend, is groundbreaking. In this, you get the bleak sense of a situation where a man is living lives with the majority of people around him are now not human anymore. Okay, they're not like him. They want his blood, literally. They want to get him. Imagine if you're in an area that you used to live in, and then new people take over. A new society takes over the old, and you're one of the remnants, and then you have to live that life. Where everyone around you has it in for you. Okay, it's paranoia. Nothing like that has ever happened in the world, so it's only fantasy. Right? But it gets that across when night falls and he has to get back to his fortified place. American houses are notorious, at least and since the war, for being very easy to get into. The whole idea was that, well, you could defend yourself with sucking a mermaid. But remember the early dwellings in America. Okay, both European and Indian. The Indians had fortresses. The Indians had long houses. The Indians had walled cities. Yes, they had cities. They probably had more forts at one point than the Europeans did. There's a reason why when you go back, and when I keep saying the old gods are going to return, I don't literally mean Cthulhu, although who the hell knows? There could be something on the way to Earth as I speak. You'll never know. But the old gods, I keep saying, they're gods of barbarism, are going to return, where you're going to need a man to be a man, a woman to be a woman, and you're going to need a safe spot. Like in Varg mentions in like southern France, the old houses, or in Italy, you could see it. People that used to get raided by certain people from the other side of the ocean on the other continent. They all their houses and their dwellings were made literally like forts to be fortified. So, but Last Man on Earth really gets that across. Not to mention the fact that this guy finds himself. You think he's the hero, but in the end, he finds out that, oh my God, the remaining society thinks that he's a villain of the past, a relic of the past, and he needs to be subjected to justice. Martin, Romero keeps saying that this is his classic, and it really is. In terms of decadence, not the elegant decadence, but the decadence of decay, the decay of what you see in this city. Braddock's literally right outside of Pittsburgh. It's kind of Pittsburgh. But man, it looked run down back then. I'm in the Pittsburgh area frequently, and the city part is really nice. But if you go in the surrounding areas, you start to see, oh, okay, this was a rough steel place, bud. And Martin, of course, is kind of like a creepy kid nobody likes, teenager, incel, or is he a vampire? You never know. You never really find out if he is or not, I guess you'd say. But as an idea of this, this, to be frank, fucked up kid, or person with the appearance of a kid, living a lonely existence, basically with the most evil desires, and living in a fantasy world, while in the middle of grim, post-modern urban decay. I mean, this is the mid-'70s, and you should see how things were going downhill. It really is really great. And of course, the ironic ending that Martin finally faces justice for his crimes, except actually not really. He doesn't get punished for anything he doesn't get what he gets punished for is not what he actually did. The crime that he actually did. It's very clever. You know, Nosferatu. Another remember from Land of the Dead, man. I keep coming back to this. Watch this film. It's probably easier to get to than the others. Just watch this, man. The high rises of the surviving areas. You see the elites up there in their towers. You can say it's a very leftist film. Well, the problem with that is that your leftists are totally. They seem to be very much with the establishment. That's pretty basic to understand, but there's even deeper things here. The idea of the working people or the people that make this place survive against the onslaught of invaders. Okay, people coming in. Okay, the people that make that happen are being undermined and pretty much abandoned and thrown to the wolves. Almost like you wonder what's going to happen. The very elite people are the elite entities are undermining, and part of it is by design, and part of it is just I don't. You can say you don't know what it is, but a lot of it's just stupidity and decadence and weakness, laziness. Undermine their very sanctuary, by slowly getting rid of the buffer, the warriors, the men, the people that make things run and happen, and despising them, literally giving them a little promise to join them, their bourgeois fantasy. Okay, knowing that that even is no safe haven. Yeah, it's really a really great film. Very interesting, man. Biggest budget film he ever had. Biggest actors he ever had. Dennis Hopper, man. Rest in peace too. Amazing. So, and yeah, and Leguizamo again. I mentioned he actually is pretty good at this. Even though he's a tough guy. And of course, the mother of it all, the other Dawn of the Dead, man. I keep saying the consumerism. Yeah, well, yeah, consumerism definitely is in this. Okay, the shopping mall. It's fun to see the old shopping mall, the old video game arcade scene. It's like wow. But Romero had mentioned, and I keep saying it, the main theme of Dawn of the Dead was an old society being overtaken by a new society. Okay, and that has been buried. I mean, you want to talk about relevant? Watch this. Watch the scene with that scientist dude yelling at people on the television. And the great scene where Roger is turning after being bit, and Peter is there. Really well done scene, edited with more banter, political banter in the background. That actually is kind of relevant. I'm gonna focus on that at some point, but. When you say the old society be taking over the new, now you can go with the obvious, right? Which is happening. Literally, they're electing a new people. But even in other areas, in culture, the old society, the younger generations are literally, I'll be frank, they're literally like they came from another planet to me. Okay, now there's always a bit of a generation gap. But I'm noticing it really well. Like I said, I'm in between as a Gen Xer. I'm noticing the really young kids. I can barely. They don't seem. They're like on a different rhythm than me. From the way they talk to everything. You say, "Well, you're getting old." I think you can understand what I'm getting at. Because when you do meet young people that come from a different background, that are more like what you remember, they are very different from them as well. So the old society being overtaken by a new one is relevant in many more ways than just the obvious, dissident right trope. And like I said, I keep coming back to this again. You're gonna see. I'm gonna edit some of the dialogue some of my favorite scenes into a little vid at some point. And that's it. Relevant. Don't you feel relevant? Oh man, what a bait and switch the last century, wasn't it? And you're realizing it now, the horror. Chill up your spine or an evil not smile and a nod. I would say that you do the latter, like me, and laughing later.